Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Cat Ballou is a 1965 Western comedy that stars Jane Fonda and Lee Marvin. The supporting cast includes Tom Nardini, Michael Callan, Dwayne Hickman, Nat King Cole, and Stubby Kaye. The movie was directed by Elliot Silverstein from a screenplay done by Walter Newman and Frank Pearson, but that was adapted from a 1956 novel called The Ballad of Cat Ballou by Roy Chancellor. His novel was a serious Western, though it was turned into a comedy for this film. But the filmmakers retained some of the darker elements that he had in the original manuscript. The movie references many classic Western films, most notably the movie Shane. The storyline goes that in 1894, the prim and proper, innocent Catherine Ballou has just returned to her hometown of Wolf City, Wyoming, to begin her working life as a school teacher. She learns that an unknown someone is conspiring to force her father, Frankie Ballou, off his ranch in the name of development. That person or people has hired muscle in the form of a vicious, tin-nosed person named Tim Strawn. Frankie and his sole ranch hand, a mild-mannered Cherokee named Jackson Two Bears, are ill-equipped to defend their ranch. Cat takes it upon herself to fortify themselves in the form of convicted cattle rustler Clay Boone, whose real motive for taking the job is trying to get into Cat's bed. His associate, Uncle Jed, isn't much help either, as both of these criminals admit that they've never fired a gun in any of their crimes. So Cat puts most of her faith in a hired gun that she sees advertised on a poster named Kid Shalene. She pays $50 to him without ever seeing the merchandise that she's getting. She learns it's not all he's advertised to be. Cat's mission goes from protecting to retaliation, and it also leads to her own life of crime. What happens in this situation is affected by the kid's own unspoken history, most specifically with the tin-nosed Strawn. Now, you really ought to almost call this a musical because there's a lot of singing in it. Nat King Cole had a nightly singing engagement in a Lake Tahoe nightclub while filming was going on. He would commute back and forth daily between Lake Tahoe and the set in order to do both of these endeavors. Everyone noticed during the filming that he was coughing a great deal, and they noticed that he was losing weight. Most people just figured that he was just running himself ragged because of the grueling schedule. Unbeknownst to them and to Cole himself, he was already a very sick man with lung cancer, and he would go on to die a short time later after filming was complete. Lee Marvin got paid $30,000 for his work in this movie. Following his Oscar win for it, his earnings shot up to $1 million for Paint Your Wagon in 1969. Lee Marvin's drunken antics kept most of the cast and crew laughing continuously, but it didn't make a fan out of Jane Fonda, who had to play her character straight while all the other cast loved to ham it up. She had to take her role very seriously. All of this was way too serious for Marvin, who is always a constant cut-up on the set. Marvin was constantly trying to get her to lighten up, but he couldn't do it. She seemed completely annoyed by him doing this. Lee Marvin's larger-than-life personality and his fondness for tipping back the bottle made the actor an irresistible presence on the set for most people. Dwayne Hickman said that working with him was a blast, that he had never met such an outrageous personality. He said that Lee loved to drink and the more he drank, the more outrageous he became. Marvin had very defined theories on acting and his style that was all his own. He thought that if a little is good, a lot is even better. And it's definitely known that he used alcohol to enhance his performance as the drunken kid Shalene. For instance, the very first scene that Marvin shot was the one in which everyone meets kid Shalene for the first time, and he's falling down drunk. He rehearsed this several times, and then he went behind the barn and took a shot of vodka to steel himself. Dwayne Hickman said he ran into him shortly after this by the dressing room where he'd just gotten sick and thrown up, and asked him if he was okay. In typical Lee Marvin fashion, he responded by saying, "Tension, baby, just a little tension." At the time, Marvin's over-the-top portrayal of two totally opposite brothers was a revelation following his career playing one-note heavies. The actor had never had an opportunity to show his lighter side, and audiences just loved it. The film's horse trainer told the director that the scene where the horse leans against the wall with his front legs crossed would not be able to be shot because horses don't cross their legs. But he thought that it might be possible if he had a couple of days to work with him. The director invoked his rank as director and gave him an hour to get it done. The trainer enticed the horse with sugar cubes while repeatedly pushing his leg into position. Eventually, they were able to get the shot in the time frame that was required. According to Jane Fonda, production moved at a really brisk pace for the filming. It seemed that they would never do second takes unless a camera broke down, and the producers had the actors working overtime day after day, until one morning Lee Marvin took Jane aside and told her, "We're the stars of this movie. We need to stop this stuff." They decided that they need to stand up for themselves because the people that suffered the most was the crew. The crew didn't have the power to say that they were being overworked. They decided to start saying no when they were asked to continue working on. Even though everyone knew that they were making a pretty good film while they were doing it, no one had any idea that they were making a classic. Jane Fonda states that she had to admit that it wasn't until she saw the final cut of Cat Ballou that she realized that they had a hit on their hands. She hadn't been around when they were filming Lee Marvin's horse scene, which has become a classic image in movie making. Once she saw everything put together, she actually loved the film. Now, the actor that plays the sheriff in the film is J.C. Flippen. He's a character actor from Little Rock, Arkansas, and he's definitely got a face that you remember, and you've seen him in many films. While he was filming this movie, he had to have a leg amputated due to a serious infection that he had gotten, resulting from only a minor scrape with a car door. This was all likely complications from diabetes. He struggled through the filming and finally finished his scenes in great pain. After the amputation, he took a short period of recuperation. Then he went back to work in roles that didn't show his disability. He finally went on to pass away on February 3rd, 1971, at the age of 71. Now, he was laid to rest in Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles. That in itself is not spectacular, but where he ended up resting for the rest of eternity is right next to Marilyn Monroe. He's on the same level as Marilyn, just an arm's reach from touching the beautiful blonde. What a great neighborhood to be in when you're waiting for the judgment. Take a look at this classic film. It's hilarious just in the fact that Lee Marvin is at the top of his game here. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.